Hello, this is Atomic Brain Fart here, and if anything, I tried to do where I could do my intro, but so far I can only do that in Video Editor. So, I'm still trying to figure out how to do this. Alright. I don't want game capture. There we go. So, I don't know how to really do all this, but I've got a few, alright, politicalcompass.org, alright, YouTube, welcome. It's timely distrust that the political compass has been on the internet since 2001. You can start to politics reflects on the gratifying, enthusiastic reviews we have enjoyed in the national media of many countries from our earliest years, as well as the many teachers and academics who continue to use our work. So let's go ahead and let's see. Here we go. Take the test. Now, I've done this test before in 2016 and in 2019 and 2020. In 2016, I was a little bit to the left, and then by 2019, I was pretty far left. And then by 2020, I didn't know where I was anymore. So this is actually more to help me, to kind of help people to kind of like see where I am. But here we go. Just a few questions to start with concerning the list. How do you see the country and the world? If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. I strongly agree. I'd always support my country whether it is right or wrong. Strongly disagree at this point. No one chooses their country or birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I'm kind of torn on this, so I'm going to go with disagree, just slightly. If you're born in a country that has good human rights and civil liberties, I'd say that's something to be proud of. Our race has many superior qualities compared to other races. I view everybody as the same, regardless. We should all strive to treat each other fairly and equally. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Disagree. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Strongly disagree. That's a violation of the the laws of war and the Geneva Convention. There is no worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I agree that if it's factual information and entertainment, I have no issue with it. So I'm gonna go with disagree. Unless if it's like, misleading information or anything like that. Now the economy we're taking the attitudes here, not the FTSE index. People are ultimately divided more by class and nationality. I'd say both. But I'm gonna pretty much strongly agree with that because the middle class in this country is disappearing. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Both are pretty bad. I'm gonna pretty much strongly disagree. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect information, they require regulation. I strongly agree. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. I strongly agree. The freer the market, the freer the people. I disagree. The thing with doing that is there's already a bill in Nevada that could potentially have companies make their own little governments or something like that. I got to look more into it, but if you deregulate the market, it actually makes worse for the working class. It's a sad reflection of our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. I strongly agree. Land shouldn't be a commodity that to be bought and sold. I agree. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to our society. I strongly agree. Protection is sometimes necessary in trade. I'm going to look that up real quick. Yeah, I disagree with that. Social responsibility of companies should be delivered. I guess I can agree with that one. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly disagree. If anything, we've been seeing a rise in billionaires in the few and the poor amongst the many. With the ability to pay, we should have access to higher standards of medical care. Strongly agree. Government should penalize business that mislead the public. Strongly agree. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Strongly agree. Looks at our personal social values. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. I strongly disagree. I believe that it's a woman's choice to determine whether or not she has an abortion or not. And it sounds pretty hypocritical, but the doctors, when my mother was pregnant with me, strongly suggested I be aborted. But I'm glad to be alive, but I'm still pro-choice. Go figure. All authority should be questioned. Yeah. I think that any form of authority should be questioned and held accountable, as well as there should be a level of trust and not just like everything's hush-hush. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I disagree. I used to really agree with it, but especially in a day of where there's mob justice and stuff, especially for someone who is thought of as guilty but later is found to be innocent. I believe that we should have a better court system where we actually look at all the facts before we go around jumping to conclusions. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I agree. Why be a tax dump on something that's not going to be used? Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I'm going to slightly disagree on this. Unless if you have like an illness or something, I don't think you should miss out on any education. All people have the rights, but it's better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. I strongly disagree. We are all a social species. We should all, get along to the best of our abilities. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I strongly disagree. I think that there are other ways to discipline your child other than through physical force. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. I agree. Unless if it's something that is really like messed up, but I think that it does promote some kind of individual growth and individuality. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. I strongly agree. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. I strongly agree, although I will say that the current education system in this country needs a huge reworking. People with serious inheritable diseases should not be allowed to reproduce. I'm going to go ahead and disagree. I believe if you're disabled or not, I believe you should be able to be a parent if you want. Even if you have one naturally or adopt. I don't really care. Like, I don't say that in a mean way. I say that it should be up to the person to decide that. The most important thing for children is learn to accept discipline. If it's internal discipline, yeah, I agree. I mean, not like, discipline where it's like external forced authority discipline, but more of self-discipline, I guess. There are no savage or civilized cultures, there are only different cultures. I agree. One man's so-called civilized culture could be another man's dystopia. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. If they're disabled but willing to work, I'd say they should get support. If there are people who are perfectly capable of working but choose not to, I agree. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I disagree with that. If you need help, you should get help. First generation immigrants can never be fully... Who writes this stuff? I don't know who writes this stuff, but first generation immigrants can never be fully integrated with America. Anyone who comes here can be an American citizen. What the hell? What's good for the most successful corporation is always ultimately good for all of us. I disagree. I mean, look at Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I disagree. Now you see a wider society. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I strongly agree. Thanks to George W. Bush and the Republicans in the 2000s, we've had the Patriot Act. And also because of the insurrection earlier last month, there could be the Patriot Act 2.0. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in the democratic political system. While I would agree with that, I would disagree is that when you put enough power to one party, especially if there is no checks and balances and there's no transparency, there's a chance that it could be corrupted and abused. Take a look at the history of the early Soviet Union. It was sort of democratic early on, but then it kind of became more of a one-party state through the Russian Civil War, made worse by the fact with Joseph Stalin's rule. So I'm going to say that I'm going to strongly disagree on that one. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. I strongly disagree. Especially with the age where everyone is spied on, and especially now with the effect of deepfakes online, that is pretty terrifying. That, even if you're innocent, someone can make evidence against you out of thin air. That's pretty dystopian shit right there. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I would only agree on the concept if it was like a mass murder or something on par with the Nazis. That's the only time I would ever agree. Otherwise, I'm not for the death penalty, but only for the most heinous of crimes. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Strongly disagree. Actually, I'm going to just go with disagree. I believe and dismantling a hierarchical structure wherever it is, whether it be in a republic or in a monarchy or any form of system. I believe in more of a lateral power structure where everyone has a say. It may not be perfect, but I would prefer that over a hierarchical system. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. I disagree. Anything can be art. It's really up to the mind of the beholder. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. I strongly disagree. Especially with we have an overflowing prison pipeline, and it doesn't work. It doesn't rehabilitate prisoners. I mean, if you compare our prisons to, like, say, prisons of Norway and Sweden, Norwegian and Swedish prisons are actually a lot more humane, and they don't even look like cages. They look like apartments. And actually, there is a higher turnout of rehabilitated prisoners. So I would go for prison reform where we get rid of the school-to-prison pipeline, as well as I favor the abolishment of private prisons. Adam Ruins Everything actually did a very good video on both private prisons and solitary confinement. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree on only a few kind of criminals that are just so messed up they can't be brought back into society. The business person and the manufacturer are the most important than the writer and the artist. I disagree. I think that all of them have merit. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I just strongly disagree. I think that everyone should have the opportunity to make something for themselves, rather than just be locked in a tight binary of, oh, well, you were born this, so you have to be this, or you were born that, so you have to be that. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Yes, I strongly agree. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I'm going to disagree with this one. It's okay to rebel if, like, the system is not working the way it should and it's, like, totally corrupted. I mean, like, yeah, it would be for a whole nother video, but I'm just trying to get through this. Okay, page 5. Astrology explains many things. Scientifically, yes. Physiologically, like pseudoscience and stuff, I disagree. You can be moral without being religious. Yes. I think that there are some basic morals that you can develop. Like, there's a difference. There's similarity and differences between religious morality and humanistic morality. Humanistic morality isn't really tied to religion. I mean, religion can help with formulating it, but I think that ultimately humanistic morals transcend politics and religious barriers. But that's just my opinion. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. As much as I would love to agree with that, I would strongly disagree. Charity is private, and there's not so much resources that can be gathered and distributed for many people without a massive infrastructure to do that. Some people are naturally unlucky. Well, personally, I kind of feel myself as unlucky, but I believe that luck is subjective, so I'm going to say disagree. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. I strongly disagree. School should be a place about learning skills and resources to get out into the world. It shouldn't be a place to instill one's cultural. I know that there are private schools that do that, and I'm glad I didn't grow up in one of those. I knew a couple of people that grew up in that kind of environment, and they were okay, if not a little bit too sheltered. And page 6 of 6. Finally, look at sex. Sex outside of marriage is usually immoral. I'm going to disagree. I think is if you're okay with someone, you know, okay. A same-sex couple in a stable loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Yeah, I strongly agree. Whether if you're a gay couple or a lesbian couple or a trans, whatever, I do believe that there should be no barriers from that. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. I agree. It's something I don't really want to get into too much. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state, and I pretty much agree. Unless if there's some things that are shady going on, otherwise I don't care. No one can feel naturally homosexual. I disagree with that. I believe that some people, you know, grow up, you can tell if you're friends with them as kids, and when you grow up you kind of know. That's just my opinion. These days openness about sex has gone too far. I kind of agree, but more of I think that I agree and disagree. I disagree in a sense that not a lot of any LGBT is represented, but I feel like a lot of the openness, you know, being somehow trashy is empowering. That's, in my opinion, that's where I don't find it as empowering. And let's see where I stand. Let's see. Huh. So, essentially, because I remember in 2016 I was somewhere around here, then around 2017 or 2018 or 2019 I was around here, then last time I took it I was around here, so now I'm right here. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Well, I got 2 more to do, but I feel like I'd rather do them another day. But I hope that you like what you saw, and I probably should get some videos posted out soon. But first, I gotta get my insomnia treated. But if you watched this video and you found it interesting, please leave a like.